Festivals and the Rhythm of Life, Leviticus 23. Israel has three major festivals. They are Passover, the Feast of Weeks, and the Feast of Tabernacles. People lived their yearly lives by repeating these festivals. In this sense, the three major festivals were like knots that held the rhythm of the year together. Through the festivals, people reflected and tied together their lives from the previous season. This enabled them to move forward into the next season with renewed strength and stability. In the Bible, festivals are mainly explained through sacrifices. Because of this, Old Testament festivals are often seen only as events where people gathered at the temple to offer sacrifices. In today's terms, festivals can look like events focused only on worship services. As a result, when the church emphasizes festivals, people may close their hearts. They think it simply means attending more services and giving more offerings. Today, we do not follow Old Testament festivals in the same way. Instead, they have been newly applied. Easter, Pentecost, Thanksgiving, and Christmas as examples. These are called church festivals. When I look back on my childhood, I remember enjoying festival seasons with friends at church. But as I grew older, festivals became nothing more than days for special services. In short, church festivals no longer became a driving force that supported the rhythm of my life. Today, through Leviticus 23, we want to examine how Old Testament festivals guided the rhythm of believers' lives. Above all, Old Testament believers lived the entire year with God through festivals. The three major festivals are Passover, the East of Weeks, and the Feast of the Tabernacles. These festivals are directly connected to the agricultural cycle of the year. The yearly farming cycle in the land of Canaan was like this. First, seeds were planted. According to our modern calendar, barley was planted in October and November. Wheat was planted in November and December. The seeds grew through the winter. When the March arrived, the barley harvest began first. At that time, the very first sheaf harvested nationwide was offered to God. This period corresponds to Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread. These festivals did more than commemorate the Exodus. They also proclaimed the beginning of the spring barley harvest. After offering the first sheaf to God, all the people began harvesting barley. Then, after 50 days, the wheat fully ripened. The wheat harvest was then in full progress. This was when the Feast of Weeks, also called Pentecost, was observed. Through this festival, the people stood before God as they completed the grain harvest of the year. After that, people did not rest idly in the summer heat. They focused on fruit farming. From July, grapes were harvested. They were not simply eaten and discarded. They were crushed underfoot to make grape juice. They were also dried to make raisins. Then, in August and September, figs and pomegranates were harvested. They were picked and dried. Figs were formed into clusters for long-term storage. There was also a very important fruit. It was an olive. In autumn, olive trees were shaken to collect the fruit. The olives were then pressed to produce oil. After finishing the exhausting work of fruit farming, the Feast of Tabernacles arrived. All the produce of the year was gathered into storage. The people held a joyful and thankful festival before God. This was the Feast of Booths, also called the Feast of Tabernacles. In this way, Old Testament festivals were not only for sacrifices. Festivals were about living the entire year of God. People began their work with God. They continued their work with God. They completed their first tasks with God. They prepared for the next season with God. They also finished the entire year with God. This way of living was what the festivals represented. May you live with your entire year with God. This is the faith of keeping festivals. Consider what the important events in your life are from January to December this year. Think about how you will live out these yearly plans together with God. At each stage of the year, offer thanks to God, to Him. Share the rhythm of the year with God. This is the faith of keeping festivals with Jesus. Keeping festivals means making an account before God. Try to have moments of examination throughout the year. The people of Israel had festivals placed throughout the year. At each festival, they came before God. Their purpose was not only to offer sacrifices. They examined their work and their lives before Him. Some people run forward relentlessly toward their goals. They live diligently and passionately. That is admirable. However, they still need to check whether they are moving in the right direction. It would be ideal to go straight from beginning to end. But when people run without reflection, they may drift in the wrong direction without realizing it. In some cases, people run so hard that things begin to break down. Problems grow and fester without being noticed. Only when something suddenly collapses do they realize what went wrong. That is why God placed festivals at various points in the year. They were meant to bring people before Him to examine themselves. The basics of examination are direction, adjustment, healing, and rest. Next week marks the beginning of Lent. It is the start of the church calendar. When a festival approaches, people often think about special events. They wonder about offerings or fasting and special prayers. That these are required. What matters is using festivals as times for direction adjustment. This applies not only to church festivals but also to traditional holidays. Every festival should begin with examining one's life before Jesus. It should be a time to adjust direction. During a festival, we look back on how we have lived since the last one. We examine whether our actions align with Jesus, and then make necessary adjustments. Healing and rest are essential to direction adjustments. Many disciplined and hardworking people examine themselves often. They try to adjust their direction repeatedly, yet their results are often disappointing. The main reason is a lack of healing. A blade that has been overused becomes dull. Trying harder with a dull blade only causes more damage. The body breaks down and the results decline. Festivals must become seasons of healing. Tired bodies and weary hearts must be restored. Wounded relationships must be healed. The tools of life must be repaired. Only then does direction adjustment have meaning. Pray to Jesus. Jesus, heal me, restore me. Why does life still creak even after healing? Let us say that during a festival, Jesus healed our wounds. We believe he healed us completely. Then we immediately start running again with even greater intensity. Soon, pain returns in the healed ankle and back. We collapse again. Why does this happen? Was Jesus' healing incomplete? No, Jesus healed perfectly. But the human body and the heart need time to recover. Even after healing, rest is necessary. Festivals call us to pause and rest. We observe the Sabbath. It is not only a day for sacrifice or worship, it is a day for rest. Festivals are days of rest. Lay down your work. Give rest to your body and soul. Pray, Jesus, give me rest. Receive restoration in His grace. God gave festivals so that we may live every day like a festival. The attitude of festivals is joy and gratitude. God did not give festivals so that we would complain. He gave them so that we would rejoice and give thanks. In the Old Testament, festivals often coincided with harvest. Naturally, they were filled with joy and gratitude. Does that mean we should be thankful only during festivals? No. If someone complains all the time and suddenly becomes joyful only during festivals, there is a problem. Joy and gratitude during festivals are possible because joy and gratitude have already been built during daily life. How can we welcome festivals with joy and gratitude? There must be gratitude and joy in everyday life. Are you thankful for what God has given you now? Some people say, God, how long must I live in this small house? If you give me a bigger and better house, then I will be thankful. This house isn't worth caring for. This attitude is not the faith of keeping festivals. I am a pastor. My ministry scale is very small. If I say, God, did you make me this way because I am incompetent? If so, I will do ministry half-heartedly and then suddenly give thanks during festivals. That would not be genuine faith. The faith of keeping festivals means valuing the life God has given now. It means serving joyfully in our present situation. Instead of complaining about the manna in the wilderness, we give thanks for the daily manna God provides. This is the faith of walking with Jesus. Festivals and the rhythm of life. The festivals of Israel were not merely religious events. They were rhythm that guided people to live the whole year with God. Passover, the Feast of Weeks, and the Feast of Tabernacles marked the beginning, the progress, and the completion of work before Him. Festivals were times to examine life before God. They were moments to adjust direction, receive healings, and rest. They restored the people who were exhausted and wounded. God gave festivals not so that only special days would be holy. He gave them so that every day could be lived with gratitude and joy. Giving thanks in the place we are now and walking with Jesus daily is the truth faith of keeping festivals. May you walk with Jesus wherever you are and whatever you do. Amen.